So in today's video we are talking about backspin, and we're going to show you how you can spin those golf balls back on the green with your wedges. So welcome back to the Forest of Arden. We're on the Arden course, just short of the 16th. I've got myself around about 85 yards to this flag behind me. We're talking about wedges and how you can create the all-elusive backspin that so many golfers want. So in today's lesson, you're going to learn how the equipment makes a huge difference when we're talking about backspin. You're going to learn how the conditions or the environment really influence your ability to create backspin, and you're going to learn the technique which is really conducive to putting spin on that golf ball. So the first thing we have to establish here is every time you hit a golf shot, you're putting backspin on the golf ball. If the ball isn't reacting as you would like it to do on the green, it just simply means you're not putting enough backspin on the golf ball. That's what we're going to try and cover in this video, is just how to increase that spin. So before we start, little disclaimer, there's going to be nothing in this video which is a magic move, information which you've probably never heard. Creating backspin is just a culmination of lots of things that have to happen. So we're going to talk a little bit about the equipment that really needs to be in place for you to create backspin. Now, your wedge needs to be pretty good. I've got myself a 56 degree here, and the reason this video came about is that I recently changed my wedges from the high toe to the new milled grind 2. I've had those for probably getting close to 6 months now. They're just starting to wear a little bit, and as soon as I switched these golf clubs into the bag, I started to see more backspin. It really got me thinking about how equipment makes a massive difference to that sort of reaction on the green. So brand new wedges here with obviously very clean grooves, very sharp grooves, and this wedge here, this mill grind, the face is just starting to rust a little bit, which is how they're designed. It's helping me create some backspin. So the wedge really plays a huge role. The golf ball has to be a top quality golf ball. I use a TP5X. If you're using a hard covered golf ball, it's not going to spin. So the equipment's really important. Then we mentioned the conditions. You can see I'm on a very tight fairway. Tight fairway means I'm not going to get anything between the club and the ball. That means I can impart the most amount of spin. The distance I'm hitting the ball over makes a massive difference. If I'm hitting a 20-yard shot, I can't create as much spin as if I'm hitting a 60, 70, 80-yard shot. So we have to have some amount of speed in there in order to generate spin. You're not going to see this in the video, but we're slightly into the breeze. Into the breeze, again, is going to help me spin that golf ball. Soft greens, that's going to help. The green sits a little bit towards me. So the situation I've found here with the equipment I'm using already suggests to me that I'm going to be able to create some spin in this golf shot. That's the first thing. Put me in a different situation, I won't be able to spin it as much. So that's that covered. Make sure you've got the right equipment, make sure the conditions are good, and then we can start talking about the technique. Now, when we're looking at creating spin, there's a little equation that we know happens down at impact, which what creates spin. It's called spin loft. So imagine that my golf club is traveling level with the ground, so my attack angle is level, and I have 50 degrees of loft on the golf club at impact. The difference between those two lines is what's going to create the spin. So that angle is 50 degrees. If I hit another shot where my attack angle was level, but this time I had 30 degrees of loft, the difference between those two would be 30. That's going to create less spin. So we have to increase or widen that angle in order to create spin. The difficult bit is when the angle gets too wide, we start to lose spin because we reduce friction. So there's an optimum in there. And that's where really we get golfers, hitting shots which don't spin because they often launch the ball too low or they launch the ball too high. So the things that we need to avoid. We do not want to have the ball way back in the stance and driving the golf club down this way with the handle forwards, because what that does is it produces or promotes a lower lofted club at impact, which means that you're going to get a lower flight and you're going to narrow that spin loft too much. Equally, we don't want you to be that golfer who threw the ball excessively flicks the club past the hands, because you're going to create a lot of loft, you're going to increase that angle, but you're probably going to increase it too much that we lose friction. So too low and too high will both not create good spin. We need something that's in the middle. So here's how you're going to do it. You're going to take your starting position with the ball in the middle of your stance, with your stance pretty narrow, just less than shoulder height, certainly narrower than I would for a mid-iron. Notice how when I set up, I'm going to have a very small amount of forward lean of the golf club. Now when I hit this shot, I will take a divot, but I want to try and feel as if that divot is relatively shallow. Relatively shallow because I'm still rotating my body through, and I feel like I'm extending my arms through to finish the position this way. Very easy to feel like a very high shot would create spin. It won't. It will give a high launch angle. It might stop quickly, but it's not going to create the spin. But equally, as we said, too steep, and that's not going to create spin either. So let's go ahead and see if we can hit this shot into the green. I'm going to do those things at setup. So ball nicely in the middle. A little bit of weight on the lead foot would help me in this situation. So I'm feeling maybe 55% weight on the lead side. And I'm going to be nice and positive through this. Nice full finish, but feel as if I'm relatively shallow. Okay, ball flight's pretty good, and that ball should land on the green and react just as I want with a little bit of backspin. It's a little bit short of the flag, but that ball spinning back, and I have taken a divot, but it's not a huge divot. The reason it was shallow is because I really felt like I was rotating my body through and extending, like I do in a full swing. And I felt on the way through that my lead wrist was just beginning to extend a little bit this way. Notice there's a little bit of shape, a little bit of cupping in that wrist. That's really important. It helps the club move away from the ground, helps expose the bounce a little bit, which shallows my divot, and it means that I'm not trapping the loft off the golf club too much. So if we can create that delivery into the ball, we can create that motion and that golf swing, that's really going to help us impart the most spin. After that, we need to make sure we've got the right equipment, i.e. the wedge, the ball, the conditions need to be right, the ground needs to be very, very tightly cut grass, the green needs to be very soft, the green needs to be seated towards you. All these things really help us create that spin that we're all after on the golf course. Like I said right at the start, there's no magic formula here. There's nothing you can do to really create that spin. But a 56 degree wedge, 54 degree wedge, 58 degree wedge, they're very often the best lofts to do that with. If your wedge is new, that really helps. If the ball is good, that really helps as well. And you have to have a fair bit of speed. Being positive and hitting the ball hard is a great way to impart some spin. Just be aware that when you are creating spin, you don't want to suck the ball off the front of the green. So you have to maybe recalculate your yardage and carry the ball a little bit further than you would normally. So hopefully that video is helpful to you. It's a shot which we see the best players in the world performing all the time, and they seem to do it with ultimate control. If we can start to get you to have a little bit more control of the golf ball when it lands, you're often more likely to get closer to the flags, and that's ultimately going to help your score. It's also pretty nice to be able to hit that shot and just brag to your playing partners you managed to suck the ball back in the green and end up pretty close to the flag. So thanks for watching. Usual stuff is down below, comments box, like button, and all that kind of stuff. And there's a link over there here which will allow you to be a free subscriber to my channel. More videos coming each and every week. Thanks for watching. We'll hopefully see you back here again soon.